Hello there. Hi, this is a video response, and I would like to say, don't get me started on the United States presidential elections, but it's too late, because you already did get me started, so now I have no choice but to respond. Now, I'm going to do something I never do in my videos, and that's actually read something. I don't know why I'm doing this. I am more than capable of speaking to a camera and then communicating my message to you, but I actually started writing this as a comment, and normally when I decide to do comments as video responses, I throw away the comment and I just start talking. But I've done videos on this subject before, so if you really want to hear me talk about it, you could look at those. But when I talk about it, I have a tendency to go on, and I don't want to do that because I want to keep my message short, to the point. Brevity is something. It's a farce is what it is. The reason so many people are paying attention to the election is because of the sensationalism surrounding it in the general media. People love conflict, and they're drawn to conflict, so the dramatic conflict of the election, coupled with the extensive tabloid-styled coverage it's getting, is enough to pique the interest of more than a few people. Honestly. I've seen this sort of election. It's covered on really 3 different levels, because there are 3 different levels of media. Actually, 4 different levels, okay? In the United States, there's, up here, you have the, let's say maybe the New York Times, the New York Times, Washington Post, maybe that area. Then down here, you have the tabloids, you have the legitimate tabloids, that is, the tabloids that some people seem to think of as being legitimate, the New York Post, the New York Daily News, that sort of area. Then down here, you have the supermarket tabloids, you have the National Enquirer, that sort of thing. This election is being covered on all of these 3 different levels. There's actually a 4th level, and that is up here. That's like the News Hour of Jim Blair. Yeah? That's not a newspaper, though. BBC World Service. Yeah, that's above, but still. And also, keep in mind that the sort of interest that people have is not the same as a legitimate political interest, simply because it stems from the sort of appeal that celebrity news has, okay? People care because they like to get involved in the conflict of it, not because they're dissatisfied with the state of the country and they want to bring about a legitimate change. Because if they did, they would be probably pursuing more effective routes than the presidential election. Also, keep in mind that actual politics, actually bringing about political change, is a slow and boring process. Okay? That is why I hate when people try to sensationalize things that are actually important, you know? You sensationalize celebrityism, you sensationalize who's dating who and who's having whose baby in real life. I guess that's okay, because in the end, it doesn't matter. Of course, it's still a bad thing that people are paying attention to it, but then when you sensationalize important things, or actually significant things, then that starts to create a problem, because people end up shifting their attention away from the actual thing itself and paying attention to sensationalism. It's like, okay, here is an analogy that I think is not only very good, but it's something I've wanted to bring up for a while. Have you ever seen the Discovery Channel? Have you ever seen the History Channel? I hate these channels. Do you know why? Because, let's say the History Channel, it sensationalizes history. What it does is it takes any sort of subject and it simplifies it down to the lowest, broadest, almost inaccurate sort of form it can be in. Then they fill it with all sorts of flashy editing and dramatic, over-dramatic, yet unethical narration, and then try to say, hey, this is history, this is a history lesson, watch this, it's going to educate you. Same thing with the Discovery Channel. They oversimplify and almost sensationalize science. Now, I'm not saying that these things aren't interesting, but what I'm saying is that what they're doing is they're taking away the legitimate interest that's there and adding sort of a superficial, flashy commercial interest to the point that it's really not very representative of the actual state of things, to the point that you really learn very little from it. In fact, I would say that, well, I'm not going to say in fact here, but if you ever get a chance, take a look at American Experience. Okay, that is a documentary series, also Nova. And Frontline, I guess, but Frontline you can count that, because they don't have a sensationalist counterpart. But I guess the American media is their counterpart. But look at Nova and American Experience. These are 2 documentary series, TV shows, that they do on PBS. Now, take one of these documentaries about any subject, then find the Discovery Channel or History Channel counterpart. Watch both documentaries, then when you're done, tell me which one is honestly the better, more informative, more educational, and more interesting show. They're going to be probably the same one for all of those different criteria, it's probably going to be the same one, and it's probably going to be the one from PBS. Again, but don't take my word for it. Just find it for yourself. I tell you specifically what to watch, but I don't want to. First off, I don't know any specific History Channel titles or Discovery Channel titles that you could see like really easily, because Frontline and American Experience, not Nova and Frontline and American Experience, you could just see online for free. But I'm getting off topic. Now, anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say about the presidential election is that, again, it's sensationalism. What they're doing is they're trying to, again... Also, there is something else that I should bring up, though, before I get into that. There are, of course, the other group of people, those who are involved in politics 24/7. The sort who listen to talk radio. You can always be heard spouting off against a particular political party. Don't let them fool you. Okay? They're as bad as the rest of them. Okay? Again, what this comes down to is the love of conflict. And it represents a sort of generation of politics into a spectator sport of sorts. A professional sport where it becomes more about joining a team, polarizing the enemy, branding them an enemy, and then beating them, defeating them in the public spectrum, rather than being down to earth and realistic with politics. Because, again, real politics should be dull, okay? That's the problem. That is just, it's this love of conflict. And now, speaking to you personally, keep in mind that you should be no stranger to this love of conflict. No one should be, because it's what people are drawn to. Honestly, why is there such a long storytelling tradition in the world? It's because these stories are, harkening back ages. Again, what it does is it takes politics completely out of context, assigns unnecessary importance to it, and then takes away the actual importance. Again, think of the documentaries analogy. Because also, keep in mind that there are people who say that voting won't do anything, there's no sense in voting, there's no point. Well, I understand where they're coming from, because really the problem is that on a national level, elections probably won't do much, because first off, the way that elections are counted in the United States presidentially are just completely wrong, because it's done by state when it's not. It's like overall, you have certain states get a certain number of electoral votes, and the way the majority of the state votes, all of the electors from the state will vote that way, but it ends up not getting balanced out. Because let's say a state has 10 electors and 60% of the population vote for a certain person, then you end up getting 10 electoral votes, that's 100% of the state, their electoral votes going toward that person, when only around 60% actually voted for that person, so that's 4 electors who should be voting the other way but aren't. Then also on top of that, no matter who gets elected, politics on a national level are just so broad that any change is not only actually going to come from the Congress, but even then it probably won't come from them. Because pretty much everyone has to behave in a very similar way. No matter who is more popular during the election, whoever gets the popular vote, there's not going to be that much of a difference. Then again, people are also ignoring politics on a local level. Okay? It's a cliche. I know that politics starts at home, act on a local level, but it's true, because probably most of what you encounter in your day-to-day life that can be affected is, and also, again, that makes up the majority of domestic conflicts and problems, again, conflicts even in politics, is on a local level and is actually within people's grasp, but it's not sensationalized, the conflict isn't as strong, so you don't have people paying as much attention. Honestly, the last gubernatorial election, wherever you live, how much attention did people pay to that? Is it as much as they're paying to the national election? It's odd, because probably you have this whole thing of taxes, raising the taxes, lowering the taxes. Probably the most significant taxes, and the taxes that are going to change the most that you pay if you're an American citizen, are state taxes, okay? But again, people don't show as much interest in the gubernatorial election. I live in New York. Back when Spitzer became governor, it's like no one noticed, almost. The only time people started paying attention was when you had the whole scandal and you had to leave office. Then probably you don't even live in New York, you probably know about that, even if you don't live in America. You might know about that simply because that's exciting. Now, probably most people don't actually know who the governor is right now. I'm not going to say most people don't know who the governor is, but people don't know what he's doing right now because the drama from the conflict has died away. So, again, if you're going to say that you're interested in politics, please pay attention on a local level. So just tell me that during the next election, or the last election, or the next election, you will spend just as much time worrying about who you vote for mayor or city council because you're concerned about zoning regulations, that you care as much about what happens with the zoning regulations in your city or county as much as you care about whether Obama snubs Clinton or what McCain has to say about abortion, okay? Because again, zoning, that's probably going to change. Wherever you are, that's probably going to change, especially if it's in a big city. That is, again, also very, very important on a local level, but a lot of people don't pay attention there, don't care. So how can you say that you have a legitimate interest in the long run, in the long term, in the major spectrum, when you're not even showing an interest where it matters? Again, that's more of a general comment, not necessarily specifically toward you, but specifically toward you. Again, don't get taken in by it. And to my viewers, although you probably don't get taken in.